Have you felt it lately, the unsettling sense that your life is quietly unraveling, even though nothing is wrong on the surface? Relationships fade without drama, roles you once embodied no longer fit, and paths that once gave meaning now feel strangely empty. You may feel isolated, disoriented, or as if you're losing parts of yourself faster than you can replace them. From a psychological perspective, this can feel like identity loss, grief, or existential confusion. From a spiritual perspective, it feels even deeper, like the ground beneath your inner world is being deliberately cleared. Many people mistake this phase for failure, burnout, or collapse. But what if that interpretation is incomplete? What if what you're experiencing is not something breaking down, but something being prepared? In today's video, we will help you reframe this period of endings through both psychological understanding and spiritual discernment. We will explore why isolation can emerge not as punishment, but as a consecrated phase of inner strengthening. Why the loss of external anchors, relationships, identities, familiar roles is often necessary before a deeper sense of purpose can take root. You will begin to understand why the universe does not remove what you truly need, only what can no longer withstand the frequency you are stepping into. We will decode this process not as rejection, but as liberation. Not as collapse, but as intentional dismantling one that allows your inner compass to develop clarity, resilience, and sovereignty. By the end of this video, you will no longer see your life as falling apart. You will recognize the pattern behind the endings, the intelligence behind the stripping away, and the timing behind your solitude. This shift in understanding restores psychological stability and spiritual trust at the same time. You will leave with a calmer nervous system, a clearer sense of self, and a profound realization. You are not behind, broken, or lost. You are precisely on schedule. What feels like loss is actually preparation for standing fully in your own authority, and eventually standing for others. If your life feels like a series of endings marked by both grief and relief, this message is not accidental. Stay with this video until the end. What you are experiencing is not the end of who you are, it is the unveiling of who you are becoming. Section 1. What full reunification truly means. From a psychological and spiritual perspective, full reunification is often misunderstood. It is not a fleeting reconnection driven by longing, nostalgia, or unresolved attachment, nor is it another familiar cycle of coming together only to separate again. Those patterns belong to earlier stages of development, where the nervous system, identity, and emotional body are still learning stability. From 2024 onward, true reunion operates on an entirely different level. It is no longer episodic or conditional, it is constant. Full reunification means union without retreat. There is no longer an instinct to pull away when intensity arises, no fear-based withdrawal when intimacy deepens. Instead, both individuals possess the inner capacity to remain present, regulated, and grounded within connection. This form of union expresses itself through shared life, shared purpose, and shared direction. It is building together, living together, ascending together, and creating together, not as an idealized fantasy, but as a lived, embodied reality. This is why full reunification is not primarily emotional. Emotions fluctuate by nature, influenced by stress, memory, and circumstance. True reunion is structural. It is rooted in the nervous system, the psyche, and the energetic framework of the soul. Once this level of union begins, the energy no longer fragments. There is no longer an in and out dynamic, no collapse followed by repair, no repeated testing of separation and return. Stability replaces volatility because both systems are finally capable of sustaining coherence. From a spiritual psychological lens, this permanence explains why the soul insists so strongly on readiness. Union without stability would only recreate old wounds. Full reunification requires emotional maturity, self-regulation, and inner sovereignty so that connection no longer threatens the self. When that readiness is achieved, reunion does not need to be chased, defended, or recovered. It simply holds. And in that holding, something fundamental changes. Love is no longer something you fall into and out of, but something you live within, continuously, consciously, and without fear of loss. Before we move into the next section, take a quiet moment to let this land. Notice what your body responds to, what feels calm, what feels unfamiliar, and what feels deeply true. Full reunification is not an idea to be agreed with intellectually. It is a state your inner world either recognizes or resists. That response itself is information. Reflection is how integration begins. If something in this message stirred clarity, discomfort, or recognition, I invite you to acknowledge it. Leave a comment sharing what stood out to you, what you are currently navigating, or simply type, "I am ready for stable union," as a signal of awareness and alignment. Your reflection is not just participation, it is an act of self-honesty. Now, with that awareness present, let us move gently into the next layer of this journey. Section 2. Why the Divine Masculine Tests the Divine Feminine. Before full union can ever take shape, the Divine Masculine instinctively enters a phase of observation. This is not a conscious strategy or a calculated game. It is an energetic instinct rooted deep within his soul. At this stage, he is not listening to declarations, promises, or explanations. He is reading her field. He is attuning to her energy, because energy never lies. What he is sensing is stability. He is feeling into whether her inner world is truly grounded, coherent, and self-sustaining. He is not searching for perfection, but for solidity. He is observing whether her sense of self remains intact when external conditions shift. He notices subtle signals, moments of wavering, emotional leakage, or unconscious compromise. These are not judged, but they are registered. This testing rarely arrives as open confrontation or dramatic conflict. Instead, it emerges as gentle but precise energetic pressure. Situations arise that seem small on the surface, but are significant beneath. A delay, a silence, an ambiguous response, a moment where certainty could easily turn into self-abandonment. These moments are not punishments, they are mirrors. The Divine Masculine may unconsciously poke at her energetic field, not to destabilize her, but to see whether it holds. He creates circumstances that reveal whether she can maintain her frequency without becoming reactive, without collapsing into doubt, and without shrinking herself to preserve connection. What he is truly witnessing is whether she stays aligned with herself when there is no immediate reassurance. A prepared Divine Feminine does not resist this phase, nor does she chase clarity through force. She remains in a state of inner flow, present, receptive, and deeply anchored. Her trust does not come from his behavior, but from her relationship with her own inner truth. Her surrender is not submission, it is alignment. She is rooted in herself, regulated in her nervous system, and unmoved by external fluctuations. Because of this, she does not fracture under pressure. She does not negotiate her worth. She does not abandon her center to secure validation. Her energy remains whole, coherent, and sovereign. And it is precisely this steadiness that signals readiness, not through words, but through presence. Section 3. Energy compatibility and the circuit principle. Beneath the visible dynamics of testing lies a deeper energetic intelligence at work, one that operates according to precise spiritual physics rather than emotion or desire. This stage exists not to delay union, but to protect it. At the energetic level, the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine carry fundamentally different but complementary forces. The Divine Masculine holds an electrical charge directional, activating, penetrating, and expansive. The Divine Feminine carries magnetic force receptive, cohesive, amplifying, and stabilizing. Together, these forces are meant to form a living circuit. But like any circuit, timing and balance are essential. If reunion occurs before both energies are properly stabilized within themselves, damage is inevitable. When polarity is not regulated, the system cannot hold. Energetic circuits burn, fields destabilize. What feels like intense passion or spiritual closeness at first quickly collapses into exhaustion, confusion, or emotional volatility. If his electrical charge is too strong and ungrounded, it overwhelms her magnetic field. She begins to burn out emotionally, physically, or spiritually because her system is being asked to contain more current than it can safely hold. Conversely, if her magnetism is unconsolidated or overextended, it floods his circuitry. He short-circuits, he withdraws, shuts down, or disconnects entirely as a form of self-protection. This is not symbolic language. It is energetic physics. Consciousness follows structure. Energy follows law. Love alone does not override imbalance. The testing phase, therefore, functions as a soul-level frequency scan. It measures whether both beings can maintain coherence under pressure. It ensures that each energy is self-contained, regulated, and stable before interweaving begins. The scan evaluates compatibility not just emotionally, but across multiple planes: sexual resonance, spiritual alignment, energetic capacity, and shared wisdom. True union is not the merging of two incomplete systems. It is the threading together of two stabilized grids. Wisdom meets wisdom. Presence meets presence. Energy meets energy without collapse, dominance, or depletion. Only when the circuit can hold does union proceed. And when it does, it is no longer volatile. It is sustainable, creative, and generative, capable of transmitting something greater than either force alone. A clear way to understand this principle is to imagine two powerful instruments being connected to the same energy source. One carries current, the other regulates and distributes it. If the current is rushed in before the regulator is calibrated, the system overheats and fails. Sparks fly, alarms trigger, and what looked like power becomes destruction. But when each instrument is first stabilized on its own, tested, grounded, and properly insulated, the connection becomes smooth and efficient. Energy flows without resistance. Nothing is lost. Nothing is damaged. In human terms, this often appears as timing that feels almost cruelly precise. Two people may feel an immediate soul recognition, intense attraction, and profound spiritual resonance, yet every attempt at closeness leads to fatigue, emotional spirals, or sudden withdrawal. The issue is not lack of love. It is excess voltage meeting an unready field. Only after each person has learned to hold their own charge, regulating emotions, honoring boundaries, remaining self-connected under stress, does reunion feel different. Calm replaces urgency. Presence replaces anxiety. The same connection that once overwhelmed now nourishes, because the system can finally carry the current. Section 4. The final test and the role of boundaries. When the final test arrives, its instruction appears simple, yet it carries a quiet paradox. Strengthen your boundaries more than ever before. From a psychological and spiritual perspective, this moment is not about resistance or emotional withdrawal. It is about integration. Boundaries at this stage are not walls built from fear. They are thresholds formed from clarity. This is not rejection. It is discernment in its highest form. Healthy boundaries emerge when the nervous system is regulated, the self is anchored, and identity is no longer negotiated for attachment. If he enters your life holding divine love, emotional responsibility, and kingly integrity, if his presence expands your peace rather than destabilizes it, then entry is naturally allowed. There is no force required. Resonance opens the door. But if he arrives fragmented, unclear, or asking you to abandon your inner truth, the boundary remains firm, not as punishment, but as protection of the soul. At this stage, the divine masculine will often test how deeply the divine feminine embodies her queenship. Not consciously, and not always maliciously, but instinctively. He may ask for concessions that feel subtle yet dissonant, requests that pull her off her authentic path, that invite her to explain herself, justify her worth, or bend her standards for the sake of emotional comfort. These moments are not accidents, they are mirrors. This is where she must pause, not react, and ask herself with radical honesty, am I leaving my post? Am I compromising my inner authority to maintain connection? Am I shrinking parts of myself to keep the bond intact? From a psychological lens, appeasement signals a return to attachment-based survival patterns. From a spiritual lens, it fractures energetic alignment. In both realms, the result is the same. Any form of self-betrayal delays union. True union does not ask for abandonment of self. It requires self-containment. The feminine's boundary is not an obstacle to love. It is the condition that makes mature love possible. When she holds her ground without aggression and without fear, she transmits a clear signal. Connection is welcome, but only at the level of truth. And it is this unwavering clarity that ultimately invites the masculine to rise or reveals that he is not yet ready to enter. If you've made it this far, pause for a moment and breathe. Reaching this point means something inside you is already integrating. Clarity, strength, and self-respect are no longer ideas, they're lived experiences. Let this be a moment of reflection. Notice where you've held your ground, where you've learned to choose truth over attachment, and how that choice has quietly reshaped you. If this resonates, share your story in the comments. Your voice may be the confirmation someone else is waiting for. Or, if words feel unnecessary, simply type, "I honor my boundaries and remain rooted in my truth," as an affirmation. Sometimes naming it is enough to seal the shift. Section 5. Queenship as the gateway to union. From a psychological and spiritual perspective, true union is never created through urgency, performance, or the hunger to be chosen. It emerges only when the divine feminine is fully anchored within herself, emotionally regulated, energetically sovereign, and spiritually whole. This is queenship. Not a title, not a role, but a state of inner coherence. In this state, she is no longer reaching outward for confirmation or reassurance. She is not shaping herself to be desired, nor adjusting her frequency to be accepted. Her nervous system is calm. Her identity is intact. Her worth is no longer negotiable. She holds herself with clarity, boundaries, and self-respect, not because she has withdrawn from love, but because she has finally rooted into it. From this grounded place, creation becomes effortless. Her energy opens what can be described as instant manifestation portals, not through force or visualization rituals, but through alignment. She thrives within her own field. Self-love is no longer a concept she practices. It is the environment she lives in. Because she is internally resourced, she is unavailable to distortion, projection, or imbalance. Chaos cannot anchor to her. Inconsistency cannot stay. Anything misaligned simply dissolves at the edge of her presence. This is the moment the divine masculine truly perceives her, not through longing, fantasy, or chase, but through recognition. What he witnesses is not effort, but embodiment. Not emotional labor, but embodied truth. She is not trying to prove her value. She is living it. Her presence communicates stability more loudly than any words ever could. Psychologically, this activates something profound. The masculine nervous system no longer senses pursuit or pressure. Instead, it senses safety. The field shifts. Respect naturally replaces pursuit. Stability replaces longing. Desire is no longer driven by lack, but by resonance. At this level, union is no longer something to be chased or negotiated. It becomes an inevitability, not because someone is waiting, hoping, or holding on, but because the field itself is coherent. Queenship is not the reward at the end of the journey. It is the gateway, and once it is embodied, union no longer needs to be forced. It arrives as a natural consequence of alignment. From a psychological and spiritual perspective, true reunification is not the result of longing, effort, or endurance. It is the natural outcome of inner alignment. Union does not respond to pursuit. It responds to coherence. And coherence is born when the inner world finally matches the truth the soul has always known. Full reunification arrives through integrity, because integrity stabilizes the nervous system, clarifies perception, and restores self-trust. When the divine feminine no longer negotiates her boundaries, no longer dilutes her truth to maintain connection, and no longer questions her own discernment, something fundamental shifts. She is no longer reacting to the bond. She is rooted within herself. This is not emotional withdrawal. It is psychological integration. It is the moment identity returns to center. At that point, the test does not end because something was proven. It ends because something was embodied. The lesson was never about patience or pain. It was about self-respect becoming non-negotiable. When authenticity becomes stable, the relational field reorganizes itself. Dynamics that depended on imbalance can no longer exist. The system recalibrates. This is why union does not need to be chased once the queen stands fully in herself. Chasing belongs to fragmentation. Wholeness attracts. When self-honor is consistent, connection is no longer conditional, temporary, or fragile. It becomes natural, it becomes powerful, and it becomes permanent because it is no longer driven by fear of loss, but anchored in truth. This is how true twin flame union begins, not with yearning, but with grounded presence. Not with sacrifice, but with self-respect. Not with longing, but with becoming. If this message resonates, leave a comment clearly stating, "I stand in my integrity, and I do not abandon myself." Like this video to anchor the truth within you. Share it with someone who is learning to choose self-respect over longing. And make sure to watch the next video below as we go deeper into what happens after this inner alignment is complete.